Hello, everyone. I'm Vince White. I'm an employment attorney, and all I make videos about these days are layoffs, which is very depressing, right? Because I like to help people, and I prefer to handle, situations of workplace discrimination, workplace sexual harassment, things where you think you're making the world a better place. So I'm making all these videos about layoffs because there's going to be the teacher layoff in New York State and New York City. There's going to be, I guess, Wall Street is looking at layoffs. IBM is looking at layoffs. It's 2020. Everyone is facing the risk, the potential of a layoff. And I said to myself, how do I help? Right? What can I do about that? Because a lot of times in a layoff, there's not as much an employment attorney can do because the company is not necessarily engaged in discrimination or sexual harassment. They're not firing you because they did something wrong. They're firing you because they don't have any money to pay you anymore. Potentially, they could also be doing it to cut costs, and that's going to be up to them. I can't control that. That's legal. They're allowed to make decisions for cost-cutting purposes. But I came to the conclusion I could do a kind of a layoff prep list. I could things that you might want to do if you think there's a chance you could be laid off in the near future. There's a lot of things you can do that are one, going to make you feel better, two, going to make you more prepared, three, going to keep you flexible, ready to respond, react, jump the way you need to jump to get on with your life, right? I mean, a lot you can do to better your situation if you think a layoff could be coming for you. I got my ideas here, and we're gonna go through them. I hope this helps someone. So, I think I'm funny. The first one is stop, drop, and listen, which I think any kid who grew up in the 80s will remember as stop, drop, and roll. Don't get crazy. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Whatever will be, will be. Layoffs, they happen in everyone's life. It's common. Been happening decades, centuries. It happens. You know, just accept it. If you really think this is going to happen, accept it as a possibility and move on. It's just time you got to prepare. You can't bemoan the fact that it's happening to you. Why me? Why me? That's worthless. It does you no good. Better to spend your time preparing. And to that end, I would speak to your colleagues a little extra. Do a little fact finding, right? This is your first scouting mission. We're gonna have a bunch of scouting initiatives in here where you need to gather information. You probably don't know anything because companies tend to play layoffs really close to the vest. They want to hide the details. So you got to chat with people. Is there going to be a severance? What have you heard? Is there no severance? Is everybody screwed? When's it going to happen? Do we have 2 months before this happens, or is the company going under and they're going to be locked out tomorrow when we show up to work? Right? Figure out what you can figure out. 2. This is your second scouting mission. You have to start feeling out recruiters. Okay? So not every industry deals with recruiters or headhunters, but if you're in an industry that does, great. See how they're responding to your current resume, right? They're always going to make suggestions to you because their interest is getting you hired because that's how they get paid. So they're going to say, hey, I don't like your resume, I don't like this, I don't like that. And they're all going to have different thoughts. Some are going to be amazing, right? Some recruiters are better than others. So look at how your current resume is doing. Look at their suggestions. Try out some of their suggestions. See how that changes how people are responding to your resume. See what the market's doing in terms of wanting your services, wanting to hire you, wanting to work with you, right? And if the response is that all the headhunters and recruiters of the world are saying, ooh, yeah, can't market that resume. Okay, fair enough. Time for a change. Don't fall in love with your resume. It's a piece of paper. You might think it's great. No one cares what you think. You're not the one hiring people. People only care what the people hiring people think, or the people who could get you hired, also known as headhunters or recruiters think, right? So I get it. I've been there. I've been like, oh, my resume, I like it so much. What does it matter what I think? I'm not the one hiring. So you got to let it go. Be flexible. Be open. Do a little testing. Focus group that stuff, right? Oh, I got this. I made these changes that were recommended to me in my resume. Let's apply to a bunch of jobs. How's the interest level? How's the response? Gauge the response. Good response, great, smart changes. Zero response, maybe not the best changes. We got to go back to the drawing board, right? That's your second scouting mission. Number 3. Now, a lot of you are going to have your insurance through your employer, your health insurance, right? And that's because, I mean, there's lots of historical reasons why that happened. Basically, the U.S. government got funny with taxes. Companies decided to try to give medical benefits as a way to avoid these taxes, right? Untaxed benefits they could give to employees. And then, the Affordable Care Act and a bunch of stuff happened. So there's a really good chance that no matter how bad an idea it is, your medical care, your health benefits are probably tied to your employment. That's the reality of life in 2020 United States. So you're going to have to go and fill up all your prescriptions. Go get your yearly checkup and tell your doctor, hey, by the way, really good chance I might be unemployed soon. A little worried about it. Can you give me refills that I can get filled now so that I can prolong the period of time when I'm unemployed that I won't need to refill this prescription, right? Because the dark fact of the matter is some of you are not going to be able to afford Cobra. Cobra's really expensive. Some of us didn't save. Some of us have our finances depleted by 9 months of lockdown after they told us it was going to be 2 weeks to flatten the curve, right? So get out there, get your yearly, make sure you're healthy physically, and go see every specialist. If you have a specialist that you see routinely, or if you have a surgery you're waiting on that you've been putting off, anything you're delaying, go do it now. Do it now while you're under regular coverage. Stockpile, get everything done, get it out of the way. First page down. This is exciting, right? Okay, this is the next. We're going to get into some soul searching here. Item 4. Ask yourself if you're actually happy in your career. Is it fulfilling for you? Do you go to work every day and you're like, yeah, it's pretty great. I don't mind this at all. Or do you go to work and you're like, I can't face another day? Maybe, if that's how you feel, maybe a layoff is an opportunity. Maybe it's a signal that you need to look at making some changes. You might be able to earn more in another line of work, right? There's so many people who just, you get a job, life happens, you get busy, you're working in a field that maybe you never wanted to work in, you never intended to work in, and maybe it's not the best earning potential for you. It's time to think about these things, right? You're at a pivot point in your life. You have a whole 360 degrees of potential options. Don't feel like you have to just go find the same job over again. It's kind of like an internal scouting mission, right? How do you feel? What are your prospects? What would make your life better, either in terms of what you earn, in terms of taking care of the people you care about, or just your own fulfillment, right? Okay. Now, social. Horrible, annoying thing, especially now in an election season, right? But social networking, it's going to be important. You got to build up your professional social presence. LinkedIn's a good place to start. It is a really terrible place to stop, right? It's got to be more than that. You should even consider creating content. If you're passionate about what you do, if you say to yourself, okay, I love my field, I'm going to stay in my field, great. If you're at all worried about finding a job in your field, it's time to start creating content about your field that showcases your expertise, your knowledge, and your enthusiasm for the topic, right? Because that's going to be so impressive to people. If you can go and you have a quick Zoom interview with somebody, let's say it's for an HR job, right? You're interviewing for an HR gig, and you talk to the person, and it goes well, and you think it's positive overall, you could say, hey, by the way, those new law changes in New York, I made a video about that I could disseminate to my coworkers so that we wouldn't make any mistakes in implementing the new changes in New York paid sick leave, right, for instance. And I think that interviewer is going to say, whoa, look at that initiative. And awesome, you care so much, you're so conscientious, you're helping your other employees, your coworkers, right? that's incredible. This person, who I liked mostly during the interview, is now top of the pack, and I've got a video. I can watch this person. I can kind of interact with them, feel like I'm spending more time with them, and see how much they care about HR, right? That's really, really valuable. I think it's one of the smartest things a potential hire can do. I learned that trick from an attorney who applied here years ago, who I actually didn't really think much of in the interview, but the depth of knowledge in the content that was created by this individual it really made me stop and think, right? Oh, maybe this is the person that I would want helping clients here. Maybe this is the person who cares enough to do right by our clients, right? So I think that's a really important thing to think about, and it's pretty much free. You might have to buy like a webcam or something. I mean, $100, you know, but if it helps you get a job, sometimes you got to spend a little money to make a little money, right? Number 5. Oh, I'm sorry. That was number 5. Number 6. You got to network old school, live and in person. I assume if it's still 2020, you got to put on a mask and then network live and in person. Buy some coffees, buy some drinks, buy some meals. Sometimes you need to spend a little bit of money to build this network, right? Also, don't forget to spend a little time with the people that you think of as references, right? Touch base with them. Make sure they still think you're amazing. Make sure they still want to help you. A little FaceTime goes a long way. If your reference is 6 years old and that person thought you were amazing 6 years ago, they might still think you're amazing. Or maybe they forgot. Maybe it's time for a reminder. And a coffee, right? I mean, it can't hurt. Just saying. All right. Number 7. You might know that you're getting a severance package, or you might have a proposed severance package in hand. It could be in your hands 45 days before you have to even make a decision, maybe even longer. It happens. Now, you do probably want to have a conversation with an employment attorney about that package, right? Here's the thing. You got to look through it, right? It's not the situation. If you're gonna be asking an employment attorney for a free conversation, you can't just say, "Here, look at my severance. Tell me what to care about." Nope. That people will charge you for that. At that point, they're doing a full review of a severance package, everything under the sun, going through everything in depth, and they're going to come to you and say, "Okay, we spent 3 hours. Let's give you a debrief. Here's what you should know about your severance package." But you're facing a layoff, so let's not spend your money, right? We can avoid spending your money. We've been a little spendy. We're talking about getting you a webcam. We're talking about buying some coffees. Let's try to avoid attorney's fees. Don't pay the Vinces of the world if you can avoid it. So look at your severance package. You probably understand 70 to 90% of that, right? You're going to have a couple questions. If you call up most employment attorneys with those questions, like, "Hey, here is the line of text I don't understand. Let me email it to you. What does that mean?" They're going to say, "Listen, I don't know what it means in the context of your agreement. I haven't reviewed your agreement, but this one sentence in a vacuum means this." And I think most employment attorneys would do that for you free of charge. So, pro tip, don't pay the employment attorney if you think your severance package is probably okay. If you think it might not be okay, pay the employment attorney. Immediately pay the employment attorney. It won't be much. They're just going to do a quick severance review, tell you if they agree with your concerns, or give you questions, or give you answers about your concerns, right? Okay, number 8. Talk to your spouse, talk to your partner, talk to your family, talk to your roommates, talk to your cat if that's where you at. It doesn't matter. Like, it's 2020. There is nothing to be ashamed about, and collectively, you all need a plan. I think you might be surprised if you're living with roommates and you come and say, "Listen, I'm facing a layoff. I'm setting aside this money for rent, but like I'm a little worried about month 3." I think a lot of roommates are going to say, like, "Okay, well, I'm not facing a layoff, so maybe there's a thing we can do. Maybe we can work this out. Let's figure this out." At the very least, they're going to be less aggressive towards you when you're tapped out or when you're trying to save money, because they're going to know what you're experiencing, that you've been responsible and proactive about this from the beginning, right? And listen, if someone's giving you a hard time, like if one of your loved ones is giving you a hard time because you got laid off in 2020, maybe it's time to check that person a little bit, because it's 2020 and layoffs are rolling deep. So you got nothing to, it's just, you just got to make people aware. You got to be frank and have those hard conversations. And I think that's going to put you in a much better place than it would if you kind of spring things on them when you're short later on. I'm not saying you will be short. Maybe you're going to have plenty of money. You're going to find a job immediately. But we're planning for the worst. We assume the worst and then hope for the best. All right. Number 9. We're going back to scouting, and we're internalizing it again. Look in the mirror. Really ask yourself, how are you doing? Are you okay? Layoffs are incredibly stressful. Having your livelihood, having the means by which you live, survive, thrive, impacted. Losing the people that you spend more time with in your family. Remember, you probably spend more time with your coworkers in a busy full-time job than you actually get to spend with your family, your children, your friends, right? You're losing all of that. Losing the means by which you live and the people that you spend huge amounts of your time with. That is very hard. That is super hard. How are you doing? If the answer is not great, okay. So talk to a friend, talk to a pastor, talk to a mental health professional. If you need to talk to a mental health professional, do it early and often while you have medical benefits, if it's covered, right? Very, very important. Also, on a side note, speaking about things that may or may not be covered, if you have dental or if you have optical, if you have eye coverage, right, through your medical benefits from work, go use them now too. Don't just do the specialist and fill out prescriptions. Get the eyeglasses. Use up the account that you have to maybe get the eyeglasses, get the eye test done. Go get your teeth cleaned. Get your cavities cleaned. The last thing you want is to be interviewing with the pain of a cavity, right? Okay. 10. Entrepreneurship. Chasing after your dreams, right? Awesome. Love it. Really excited for you. Do your research first. Don't go buy $100,000 worth of baking ovens when you don't actually know that much about opening a bakery, right? I mean, that's a recipe for disaster. Do your research. I mean, you might lots of gigs that are amazing, lots of businesses that are growth industries right now, that it would be a great idea to open a business in or to get into, or to even try it out as a gig economy thing where you're working a little bit as a side hustle, right? All great. But do your research. Know what you're dealing with, know the realities of the situation, know if this is actually a good idea or not, because otherwise you can't really be investing in that dream. You need to conserve resources. I want to urge you, follow your dreams in an intelligent fashion. Okay. Number 11, you need to figure out what your COBRA medical continuation benefits cost you per month, what they're going to cost you once your health insurance is done. And you need to make a budget to cover this. Now, dark conversation. What if you can't? What if you can't cover it? There's people who cannot afford their COBRA. It happens. Well, you've been preparing for this from the start when you're trying to front load, get all your medical care for the year or longer out of the way while you still have medical benefits, right? Is that really dangerous? Could you get run over by a car and not have medical coverage? Yeah, it is not a nice choice to make. We have all probably made that choice when we were younger, Do I recommend it if you have 3 kids who play dangerous sports? No, I do not. But if you just can't afford it, I don't know what to tell you. You need to look at state programs. Maybe you can get medical coverage that way. Some states, they have programs to help people. I think New York has something called Healthy New York. So there's options out there. Research your options, but you need to know. You need to know in advance if you're not going to be able to afford COBRA. If you are, you need to budget for it. Don't let this sneak up on you. Don't let this punch you in the gut one day and just you're saying, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? All right, restaurants. A lot of people in a lot of the country eat out all the time. It's great. People love it. People break bread. They have a nice time. Maybe they're keto and they don't break bread. Maybe they break, I don't know, steak. Great. I'm glad you're having a nice time. Look at the restaurants you go to. Look at how often you go to them. So make a list of the 5 you go to the most. Decide that you're only going to go like once every other week, right? And this includes if you're going out for breakfast and getting coffee. Listen, that might be super cheap. Maybe you get to go out twice a week, twice in 2 weeks. Who knows? But you need to budget for this. I would recommend, of the 5 restaurants you go to the most, cut off the 3 most expensive. Don't leave yourself with nothing. You still need to socialize. You can't isolate yourself when you're going through hard times. And you can't get rid of everything in your life that you enjoy. But you need to really minimize what you're spending. 13. Whatever you do to work out. If you go to the gym, you go running, you go to yoga, whatever it is. Maybe you go to the karate or the tai chi. I don't know. Is that not correct? I don't know. I hope that was okay. Whatever you do for exercise is really, really important to your well-being, your physical and your mental well-being. Try to figure out a plan where you can budget to continue what exercise you love. If you can't, okay, there are free forms of exercise. Maybe now's not the time to take up running because you could hurt yourself, right? It's a high impact thing, and maybe you got beat up joints and that's not the best idea. Great. Okay, go hiking. Go, there's what can you do? There's definitely things you can do. Go walking. During the pandemic, I was going for walks 2 hours a day because, I was held up in a little tiny apartment, couldn't go to the gym, so I went walking. And it felt pretty great. I listened to books on tape. Audio, MP3s of books. Now this is important. If you feel you were selected to be part of the employees who are laid off because you've complained of sexual harassment, because you complained of workplace discrimination, or because maybe your employer targets individuals in certain protected classes, right? Well, that's really important to know, and you need to immediately call an employment attorney if you think that's going on. Because although a layoff is normally perfectly legal, if that's part of the criteria, if part of the criteria is retaliatory or discriminatory, well, it's not legal anymore, potentially. And you may have options. You may have tactical options. You may have a lot you can do to fight the layoff or maybe get paid for how you've been wrong, right? So, very important, and I think any employment attorney will be happy to have that conversation with you. This video is way too long. Okay. 15. And some of you are going to immediately lose your minds when I say this. You have to stop and consider, could you be happier and live cheaper somewhere else? You just lost your job. Presumably your job is at least part of the reason why you live where you live. But a lot of people experiencing layoffs these days live in expensive parts of the country, right? High tax burdens, high cost of living, really expensive to buy a home. Maybe you bought a home 10 years ago, you got a bunch of equity in it. You're not so great in terms of the budget. You don't have a lot of money stocked up for after the layoff, but you always wanted to live somewhere cheap. Always wanted to move to, Arizona, Wyoming. Well, maybe you should, right? Especially now in a world with remote work, maybe lowering your expenses, lowering your tax burden, getting out of Dodge where your money will last you longer while you job search could be a great idea. Don't be afraid to look at that as an option. Don't isolate yourself. Don't cut off all ties with friends and family and move far away so you can't get to your support structure. Certainly not. I'm not saying that, but look at it. Feel it out. Is it an option? Would it work? Would it help? Consider it. It's worth considering. All right, and this is probably the most basic, and I'm sure you've already all done this, but take a long, hard look at your assets. What kind of money do you have? What are you going to have to live on, right? What are you going to live on when income is not coming in? And then, once you have that number, this is what you've got. This is what you have to live on, right? Set that over there. How much do you need to spend per month to continue living? Somewhere close to your current standard of living. Not the same standard of living. You need to reduce your standard of living. You need to make things cheaper. But how much do you need to spend to get somewhat close to that standard of living? Figure out that number. How much does that cost you per month? Great. Take that number. Remind yourself that you're a jerk and you can definitely cut more money, and cut it further. What do you really need, right? If your old number was I need $5,000 a month, whew, okay. Well, let's work on that $5,000 a month. How much do we really need? Maybe we need to be eating some more eggs from the grocery store and not going out so much. Maybe we don't go dancing every Friday. Do people dance? Is that a thing? I don't know. I'm not cool. And get that real number. What do you actually need per month, right? That's your burn rate. That's what it costs you per month to live at a level of quality of life that you can accept. Okay? Now, I'm sure this is very obvious. You take the amount of money you have to live on, you divide it by the minimum amount you need per month to live with, right? It costs you to live per month. You divide. That's how many months you have to live without income. Factor in if you're going to get a severance. Factor in if you're going to qualify for unemployment. You should, right? But figure that out. That's your runway. That's how long you have to go without income, to pursue new employment, look for new income sources, pursue dreams. That's how long you have. I'm sure it's very obvious. I'm sure you all knew that. But you sit down and actively do it. Don't do it in your head while you're driving on your commute. Right? That's great. You should think about it then too. But sit down, get a calculator, get a piece of paper, maybe make a spreadsheet, right? Really get your fingers into these numbers. They're going to mean everything to you in month 4 when you're wondering, I can't even go out and get a coffee anymore. That's how tight things are. You gotta plan ahead. Plan ahead. Okay? Listen, hopefully the answer is 6 months. Hopefully the answer is 12 months. Hopefully you never have to work again and you're saying to yourself, well, I could probably just retire if I wanted. That'd be great. I'd be so happy for you. But that's not going to be the answer for some of you. Terrifyingly, some of you, the answer is going to be, I probably can't go a month. Okay, well, let's figure that out, because maybe we look at part-time work. You can't let it impact your job search, right? But maybe a little bit of work, maybe a side hustle, a side gig. Maybe it's time to launch that Etsy store. Don't spend a lot of money on it, but sources of income. Maybe you'll need to explore that. Anyways, I really hope this helped. I'm available. We're always available. We're here to answer questions. I'm sorry that it's 2020. I'm sorry that politicians ran some places really poorly and they have to lay off tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people. I'm sorry that horrible companies like IBM are looking at huge layoffs again, because they're always laying people off. And I'm sorry that Wall Street, which actually appears to be doing great right now, is considering layoffs as a cost-cutting measure, right? I mean, I'm sorry to all of you. All I can kind of do is hope to arm you, prepare you, and help in some way. Good luck.